That motion carries. The resolution is adopted. We're at number 10 on the agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution concurring with the provisions of a Brownfield plan adopted by the Oakland County Brownfield Redevelopment Authority for the Exchange Project located at the northeast corner of West Huron Street and Woodward Avenue?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Councilwoman Jones, seconded by Councilwoman James. So now we can debate the matter. This is resolution regarding the Brownfield plan that the Oakland County Brownfield Redevelopment Authority had adopted. Administration, you have the floor.
Well, thank you. This is part of the process of getting off the ground a really exciting redevelopment in the downtown that will include rehabbing the Oakland Press building. It will include renovations to 91 North Saginaw, which is to be rebranded El Centro. And it will also include the construction of almost 300 new residential units as well. So this is a really important project. It relies in part on the Oakland County Brownfield Redevelopment Authority's approval, which was given, and this agenda item would ratify that. But it also relies on a large transformational brownfield, which is a state assistance program for development that captures tax dollars that would otherwise go to the state, and in this case allows them to be devoted to the development here in the city of Pontiac, which is great news for the city, and that will be up for approval by the Michigan Economic Development Corporation in December. And so with that, I'll turn it over to our Economic Development Manager, Deborah Younger.
Thank you, Mayor. I think the mayor's captured the gist of the project. I just put a diagram so you could see where the buildings that are going to be developed are. We do have a member of the development team here with us. If you have questions for the developer, again, this is one of the steps in moving forward with this process. I'm asking you to concur with the Brownfield Authority's acceptance of the Brownfield plan that was submitted on behalf of this project.
Okay. Does the applicant wish to speak to the proposal in terms of what it would mean for the community or what the residents should expect if it comes to fruition?
That's you.
Thank you for the opportunity. Would you like me to give you an overview of the development, or would you like me to, I mean, is there anything specific that you'd like me to address?
You're the applicant, so I just want to give you the opportunity, the right to speak to why you're seeking this request, how it's important to the project's viability. But if you can give a broad overview for the project. For council's benefit, we did consider this matter twice regarding the obsolete property rehabilitation establishment, the exemption certificate for multiple portions of this proposal. So you might be familiar with it. That's obviously something that Councilwoman Jones didn't get the benefit of seeing, but so this is another action related to a project that has been before you and has been discussed in different subcommittees. But if you'd like to amplify the nature of your request, and I'm going to do a point of personal privilege. I'll be back in 60 seconds.
And also, before you start point of personal privilege, can you move the microphone closer to your mouth, because you are unfortunately not the same height as Director Younger.
I'm not. No, I'm 6 foot. My name's Eric Toomey. I'm representing Dennis Griffin and Pontiac OZ1 LLC, who is the developer of this site. So there are 3 broad components: El Centro, which is 91 North Saginaw, the original Oakland Press building, which is called here the Press and Arts. We're calling it the Tech and Arts building. And then within that is the Grand Hall and the Annex, a very interesting building, completely unique in every respect, given that it was once a printing press. It's actually quite monumental inside. And then a ground-up development called the Exchange Flats, which will be a multifamily 287-unit project. El Centro is intended to be a not-for-profit community hub. With many different, as you well know, the Detroit Housing Commission is in the building, and several different not-for-profits that have been serving the community for many different years. The Tech and Arts building, affectionately named Tech and Arts, is meant to be a 75,000 square foot redevelopment, adaptive reuse of the space that will include mixture of uses, including traditional office. It will include maker space at the garden level floor that is right at grade along Pine Street, really creating an amazing sort of walkable district within there. And then the Grand Hall and the annex will be a hyper-local food and event destination space with a food hall, likely with a regional or local operator. The Exchange Flats is 287 units comprised of studios, 1 bedrooms, and 2 bedrooms with amenity space along M59 and Woodward. The total current proposed development cost is about $105 million between all 3 various uses. Previously, you did approve, obviously, the creation of the Oprah district and the Oprah exemption, as well as the neighborhood enterprise zone. What we're seeking today is a transformational brownfield plan and the concurrence of that combined work plan that the Oakland County Brownfield Redevelopment Authority approved a couple weeks ago. Pursuant to what the mayor described, the intention is to have full approval of the transformational brownfield plan at the state level through the Michigan Strategic Fund, which is the body and board that administers the MEDC, the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. The benefit of that plan is not only with respect to tax increment financing, it also allows for income tax capture, sales tax capture, and withholding tax capture that allows for the construction of this project, which frankly would not be financially viable without this tool. This tool is intended for transformational projects throughout the state of Michigan. We would be one of 4 approved if this body chose to move forward with the resolution and the concurrence of OCBRA's approval. That's it. I'm happy to answer any questions related to the project in more detail, but that's broadly it. It's a huge economic development project, huge real estate project, and it will, frankly, in my humble opinion, transform this section of downtown Pontiac for sure.
So it's a mix of new construction and then renovation of existing historic structures. When you're saying Centro, that is becoming the hub for Centro Multicultural La Familia. They have now moved to the sort of anchor tenant, if you will, for that complex. So just as a frame of reference, if people want to orient themselves about what we're talking about. Any discussion, Councilman Rutherford?
I'm very excited about this project, first because it's going to revitalize downtown, but I only have one hesitation. When we vote on this, I'm going to vote yes for this part, but my hesitation is about what's the penalty for the affordable housing, because I currently sit as the vice president of the Pontiac Housing Commission. A 2-bedroom in Pontiac, say the Westwood is $1,300. But actually, the annual income for people that have Section 8 is normally between $19,000 and $22,000. So, is affordable housing, like, are y'all gonna change it to where it's based on what our vouchers pay versus what Mr. pays, who currently are not giving out any vouchers? So, how can anybody afford to stay here if it's going by the actual county rate? Because you are familiar that Mr. has put a freeze on their Section 8 vouchers and will be freezing it for the next 26 months. And so my hesitation is, what's going to be the affordable housing rate for these apartments?
Let me answer. You had 2 questions. Let me answer the first question, which is what is the penalty if the affordability is not met? It is a heavy, and it was also asked by Ms. Northcross during agenda address, there is a very heavy penalty if, in fact, they do not maintain the affordable housing units. That penalty is what the ad valorem tax would have been. They would have to pay that in penalty times the number of units that were out of compliance. So it is a steep penalty, as well as any cost of enforcement by the city to enforce that. And of course, if they fail to comply and pay those fees, then we have injunctive rights and take them to court. But in the agreement is a heavy penalty for maintaining affordability. With regard to the rents, Eric, do you want to address that?
Yeah, I guess let me just ask. So I think we're I'll answer the question, no doubt about it, but I think this is the concurrence of the Brownfield plan, and the next one is related to the
It
affordability.
is. I'm asking this question.
Oh, okay, I got it. Yeah, so right now, we're slated that 20% of the 287 units will be at 80% of area median income pursuant to HUD's publication. It changes every year. That will be stratified across all unit types, so meaning it just won't be in one studio band or one bedroom band or one two-bedroom band. It's going to go through all of them, proportionately speaking, and throughout the entirety of the building. The rest of it will be a market rate project. I would also submit to you that there's natural occurring sort of attainability in the building just because of the marketplace. So some of the rents may be frankly below that 80% AMI threshold. And what we have currently modeled is as such. But the requirement today within the affordability agreement is 20% of the units set aside at the 80% of area median income.
So the reason why I'm asking that is a one-bedroom voucher currently in Oakland County pays $11.42. That's a studio apartment. I'm just trying to find out how much is the two bedrooms going to be at an affordable housing rate? Because the one bedroom is $11.42. A two bedroom is what? Because if you got a voucher and you want to change a voucher into the program, well, if you can't get in there, how much is it going to be?
Yeah, so for an 80% two-bedroom unit pursuant to HUD standards is $17.28.
Could you repeat that number again?
$1,728. One bedroom unit is $14.40 and a studio is $13.44 at the 80% AMI threshold.
And the reason why I'm asking that is for the next one, because that means people who have Section 8 vouchers couldn't afford to live there. Okay.
Well, potentially, but also, those are the maximum requirement. But the fact remains is that if the market won't bear it, they won't be able to charge it. So
And that's the point that I'm making to you is much of this, while we're requiring this 20% set aside, frankly, it's naturally occurring that it will likely be below that. And to build a building of this quality and interest rates are high, construction pricing is high, which is not your problem, that's the developer's problem. And that's the reason that the need for the incentive is here. But if this is truly transformational and rises all tides, it's going to create potential rent growth. And so that no matter what, we will cap it at 20% of the units at 80% of the AMI threshold. I also would like to just communicate, this is not, when you mentioned Section 8 or low-income housing tax credits in the project, we're not utilizing low-income housing tax credits. We're not going to MISTA for the support. This is coming from the MEDC specifically.
So I just want to follow up. Ms. Younger, do you understand why I'm asking this question? I want to explain it very elaborately why this is an issue for me. So we have Westwood. Are you familiar with Westwood when they built the other units and they had to make them affordable? So that my problem is people right now that have vouchers that can't get housing because they're being priced out. And so my concern is, as this is transformative, and I know, but what about those people who want to have decent housing? They can't get decent housing now. Like, thank God to Westwood that they built an additional place for them to have that. But my concern is those people, because we currently have that issue. We have people that after a year, if you didn't know, your voucher's transferable. A one bedroom is $11.42. A two bedroom is anywhere between $13 and $17. And let's say I want to move into this housing, I can't afford it. So how is this going to directly influence our residents who need housing today? Like, I'm very concerned with this amount.
Okay. Again,
Well,
go ahead.
we have before us the concurrence with the Brownfield plan. We can keep this conversation going at the next motion because it's an important one, but we can let the Brownfield plan itself.
Yeah. First of all, I don't see that presentation. Is that in our packages?
That's just a map. No, it's just a map. I've shared it before, but I'll be happy to provide it. It's just a graphic of where the buildings are.
Okay, because I have really never heard the full story, the overview of what he plans to do here, and it's been pretty sketchy here today. So basically, this says resolution concurring with the provisions of a brownfield plan adopted by Oakland County. So I don't even see any information about this. What is it that we're being asked to do here?
Explain the brownfield plan.
Yeah, so the brownfield plan, well, I don't know the genesis, frankly, of why the city of Pontiac does not have a brownfield redevelopment authority, so I don't want to speak to that, but there are often bodies that are the brownfield redevelopment authorities housed within the city. Pontiac does not have one.
No, I know that.
So that means that it moves to the Oakland County Brownfield Redevelopment Authority. As we were working with the Oakland County Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, along with the MEDC, along with city staff, including the mayor and Ms. Younger, we took that forward. And the Oakland County Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, acting on behalf of the city, well, acting on behalf of the fact that the city of Pontiac does not have a Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, approved the Brownfield Plan. The Brownfield Plan stipulates the eligible activities that we are proposing at the local level for the utilization of tax increment financing. So those would be things like you're paying for the public improvements, but with respect to various different activities within these buildings or the construction of these buildings, whether it be the podium, whether it be stormwater management systems, whether it be hazardous materials abatement, so on and so forth. And so what we're asking for now is that their approval of this plan, that you are concurring with their approval as the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority acting on behalf of the city of Pontiac. And that was approved maybe, I don't know,
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
So
Okay,
what, to further clarify, what the Brownfield plan says is that the developer can in fact develop these projects that we've identified, El Centro, the 297 units of housing, and the Oakland Press Building in accordance with the Brownfield eligible activities. Eligible activities can include infrastructure cleanup of brownfields. It also includes construction, new construction, and rehabilitation. So that is the brownfield plan. It is allowing the brownfield TIF and to be used for eligible activities which are identified in those three major sites. And so the Brownfield Authority has approved that brownfield plan.
So it was identifying it as brownfield eligible with the state of Michigan.
Correct.
And so we have been provided with the parcel identification numbers of the impacted parcels, which looks to be 5 specific parcels with the legal descriptions, but it's essentially the 5 parcels that the developer has ownership interest in that would be in the subject area. So the aerial view that we're looking at here is essentially Huron, Saginaw, Wayne, and Warren Streets. That's the area with 5 different
Correct.
parcels, right?
Correct.
Okay. Councilwoman James, further questions that you had?
Yeah, I understand this is kind of confusing the way it's written, but we're basically just being asked to approve what the Oakland County Brownfield Authority has
Correct.
already approved. The problem is that, we have no real information. I'd like to have a copy of that because I'm very uncomfortable. First of all, I'm comfortable approving it, but not with the fact that we haven't been given any, Oakland County has reviewed the project, but I don't know. I don't have any details about the project, and I would like to have them before making this step. So I really would ask if we could possibly put this off a week so that we can get a full overview of what this project, because the city council has not been given a full overview of this project. It's a big project. It's very important. And I think we need to understand what's coming.
Well, so I need to first ask for her benefit. Is there a time sensitivity? Is another week permissible versus its expiration? Because I know there are many deadlines that loom in October with various different agencies.
So, with all due respect, I hear you loud.
Microphone, please.
Oh, sorry. With all due respect, I hear you loud and clear, 100%. There are specific deadlines related to the state approval of this that requires local approval and county approval. And so there are very specific deadlines tied to this, yes.
Well, Mayor, this is what you've provided to us. To satisfy what Councilman James is asking for, I'm willing to consider to put it on the table to the end, towards the end of the regular meeting, because I know there are various different materials that you may have at your disposal that aren't here tonight, which gives you and your team the ability to try and get that. If tonight really is the back against the wall, as we keep getting shivved with the back against the wall, if this is tonight, then you've got, I don't know, 40 minutes before the sunset window, because I hear what you're asking, and it's not an unreasonable request. Next on the speakers list was Councilman Rutherford, followed by Mayor Graham.
Okay, because I need to be clear. This is for tax breaks, correct? Correct. So how many years was the Oprah done for them not to have to pay taxes, Ms. Younger? 12 years.
Not to,
No,
that's inaccurate. You can't say not pay taxes.
Right.
You have to say freeze taxes.
free, but they ain't paying taxes. You can't say it, I can't. They're not paying taxes for 12 years. So they're not paying
So
taxes.
they're paying at a frozen rate.
Right.
There's a reason why I'm asking the rate. I'm going to get to it in a minute. So then they're going to get an additional brownfield. And what's the additional timeline of the brownfield?
It runs 25 years.
So that's 40 years.
No.
No, 37? 37? Or is that 12
The
plus
12
20?
runs concurrent.
Oh, they run concurrent. So 25 years of a certain tax rate that they going to pay. I just need, Ms. Younger, if you can go to the mic. I need the audience to hear this. There's a reason why I'm asking this.
Okay. So the brownfield is not, it's capturing the value of the increase. So if it was $100 today and after the construction it's $200, it captures that increase. That's different. And then the Oprah freezes it for 12 years at the value that it is. So they're two different.
See, there's a reason why I'm asking this. Where is the benefit for this if they got an Oprah and a brownfield for the citizens? Because even if, let me finish. Even if we give them this, my issue is about how the rate's going to be, how it actually affects the citizens, and it's the timeline to get this done is October 13th, because there's certain deadlines. Is that not a correct date? Isn't it October 13th? It's October 13th. So that means we can have another meeting next week before we decide. So it's not no like we can wait on this. It's October 13th. And I know this because I'm on the Housing Commission. So I'm getting very scared because I think we about to vote on something that 20 years from now we going to regret. And I just want to have all the tangible information.
October 10th.
No? Okay.
Well,
Hey, one person has the floor. This is a city council meeting. Are you done with the floor?
I'm yielding to you, President.
Okay. So next on the speakers list is Mayor Grimel. Please stop interchanging during the course of the meeting. I know it's late. I know you're hungry. I know you're tired. I know your soul is broken. I feel the same way. Next on the speakers list, Mayor Grimel.
yeah, it's really just a point of information. So I know, Mr. Toomey, you said that there are deadlines. I think we know there are deadlines. The question, though, that was posed is, could we wait until next Tuesday to have a vote on this and not violate any of those deadlines? And I didn't hear a square answer to that.
If we are going to.
Are you yielding the floor, Mayor Grimel, to the presenter?
I am.
You have the floor, Mr. Toomey. Please use the microphone.
Like through the chair before I speak, would that be easier?
Just make sure that you're recognized. You've not been out of compliance, but just make sure you use the microphone. Okay. There are millions upon millions of people watching live at home. They can't hear you if you don't use the microphone.
Pursuant to the, I'll just give you the timeline. I'll just tell you the timeline. So we have to seek Oakland County Board approval on the Brownfield plan by November 10th to meet the MSF board date. Okay, That is an extraordinarily important date that was imposed upon us by the MEDC, not by us if we are going to meet this approval by the end of the year. Because of where the process that we have to take to get to the Oakland County is that we have to go to the Oakland County Subcommittee for Infrastructure Economic Development, and I think there's another term. In order to meet that meeting, to then get to the Oakland County Board of Commissioners meeting, we have this meeting today in order to hit that. And so without that, we don't meet the November 10th timeline that's been set in front of us by the MEDC. So frankly, to answer your question, to answer the mayor's question directly, and your question, Ms. Rutherford, is yes, this is to get approval by the end of the year. This is the drop deadline, yes.
In order to make the subcommittee to get to the full
The
Oakland
subcommittee
County
to get to the Oakland County Board of Commissions meeting to then prepare the MEDC to write all of their reports in accordance with what they need to do. And we were told that by November 10th was the date that we needed it by.
Councilman James?
Does he have to have our approval before he goes to subcommittee?
Yes.
Would we like to set this on the table for a half an hour and allow them to get
Yes.
materials to council members?
Point of information?
So moved.
It's been moved by Councilman Jones that we place this item on the table to be taken up before the meeting is done. Is there, oh, actually, let's do it two birds, one stone. The current item right now, and then the next is related to, the next item is related to the same initiative. It's the number 11. So it would be placing those items on the table until pulled. Does that sound good? That's a motion from Jones. Is there a second?
Support.
It's been moved by Councilman Jones, seconded by Councilman Rutherford to place on the table. This allows the administration and staff the ability to rustle up any intel that you can put together on this large transformational project, so that way all the council members can be apprised to it. Anyone needing clarity on the motion? Yes.
How long have we been aware of this project?
2 years.
At least 13 months, I think, is when it was first into the consciousness. But it could have been, something in the 12, 14 months, I think, unless my brain rot is really taking hold. So it's been a number of months, and different subcommittees have heard about it tangentially. The city council has considered the NEZ and the OPRA, but this is the first, I think, unless we voted to send it to the Oakland County Brownfield Redevelopment Authority.
We voted.
So that was the action. So there was some, again, there are some materials that probably are readily available that can be brought to benefit the council and the community. But did that answer your question, Councilman Parker?
It did, thank you.
So, but this is the first reading, if you will, for this request. This is the first action we are taking on the concurrence with the Brownfield plan, I think.
So this is the first reading. You're saying we don't have to vote tonight?
No, I'm just making it clear that it wasn't like on 3 weeks ago's agenda or 2 weeks ago's agenda. It is not requiring multiple readings.
Point of privilege. Council, President McGinnis, were you given this material prior to this meeting, any of this?
Well, we all get the finalized agenda on Friday. To her point, these visuals are not in this packet. So I think we have seen them before. She's done them at different presentations. I can't say definitively we've had them in our hands, but the project in different facets has come before us or been in our position at different times. You're done with the floor?
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm finished.
we're voting to table the item. So are we going to just keep talking about the item
No.
versus tabling the item?
Table.
Mayor Grimel.
Yeah, I don't want to belabor this much
you don't?
longer. I do just want to say that in various forms, this has come before council before, both for the OPRA, for the NEZ, and then for the referral to the Oakland County Brownfield Redevelopment Authority. Now, I acknowledge that the materials in today's package should have been more robust, and so I think tabling this for a time so that more details can be shared with council makes sense. But I do just want to be clear that this has come before council in various forms since at least last December, when I believe the OPRA was approved. But we'll gather up some additional information quickly. We'll rely on Eric to do that, and we'll rely on Deborah to do that as soon as she's done with the next agenda item, which is not being tabled. That's all I have to add.
The motion before us is to table the item for a little bit. Items, plural. Hearing no further discussion, roll call. Clerk Doyle on the table, setting it on the table.
Parker?
Yes.
Rutherford?
Yes.
Goodman?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
6 yeas, no nays.
Motion carries. It'll be placed on the table for us to take it back up in a little bit. Councilwoman James seconded, and it was unanimous 6-0 to take those items from the table and take them up, what had been 10 and 11. So we are now back at number 10, which was moved and seconded. We're going to continue the conversation on the resolution concurring with the provisions of the Brownfield plan adopted by the Oakland County Brownfield Redevelopment Authority for the Exchange Project located at the northeast corner of West Huron and Woodward Avenue. We all now have copies of that transformational Brownfield plan for the mixed-use development that the Oakland County Brownfield Redevelopment Authority received, and they have brought back up a more in-depth presentation. So we give the floor now to the applicant and the Economic Development Manager to delve into it further.
All right, thank you very much for the opportunity to represent. And first and foremost, to each of you, I do apologize that we didn't have a more robust presentation in front of you. Secondarily, I apologize in pure humility that you didn't have the Brownfield plan in front of you. Now what you have is the actual Brownfield plan document. Within that document, there are many different, it's a huge table of contents, frankly, and there are many different sections to this.
Bless you.
Essentially, it talks about the economic climate within Pontiac, the need for this, the eligible activities related to it, broader macroeconomic conditions related to real estate development specifically, and then also what we are seeking as it relates to the overall benefit from the transformational Brownfield plan. So, and also broadly speaking, the various uses, floor plans, square footages for each, the type of tenant strategy that we are pursuing with respect to El Centro and Tech and Arts. And so going to the development program summary you see here, the Exchange Flats again is a Class A residential multifamily development. That's the two, if you look at the screen here while you're looking at it, there's a lot to look at, frankly. It's a 287 unit project. Going back to the 20% of 80% of AMI, I want to communicate that the average rents within the building itself throughout all of the unit types on weighted average basis, to answer your question, Ms. Rutherford, is about $1,400 a month, okay? That's for studios, ones and twos. That is less than what a 2-bedroom 80% AMI is. So going back to the original point of like, some of it will just be naturally less than that, but regardless, we will still meet the 20% at 80% of AMI. The building itself is 335,000 square feet. It will have a 2-level space amenity deck as well within the building. It's a 9-story building in totality. The Tech and Arts building is office and mixed use. If you, Deborah, if you could go back one slide, please, just go up one. If I can, if I'm able to, is to point out to you Tech and Arts. I think you're fully aware, but obviously this is the church. Tech and Arts runs here with the Grand Hall. What you're seeing here, which is subject to modification, is really the central focal point of the development, frankly. It's 75,000 square feet. We'll have an outdoor sort of pavilion space with a food hall that kind of wraps around in here with event space within it. And then the remainder of that will be office. And there's a mezzanine space right down here. If we go to the existing conditions, you'll see it in a minute. There's sort of this like garden-style mezzanine space, which will be sort of a collaborative maker space and artist space for artists in the community. The intent is with the public infrastructure.
Deputy Mayor Stevens, can you please activate your microphone and give it to him? Thank you for being so receptive.
Usually people tell me I'm so loud that like you can't like.
Again, it's for the millions of humans
it's the cameras for all the millions of people watching me right now. Well, this is a new one. I gotta.
I got to be honest with you. So public infrastructure, okay? The intent is to really create Pine Street as sort of a walkable node within it. You could see the hard corner and the landscaping along Woodward and here on our M59 is really creating that node in this section as you enter into downtown Pontiac. Then you come up and you create that walkability along here, enter into a hyper-local restaurant sort of food hall focus with this sort of tech office building, frankly, have had some traction with various different potential users of that space. In addition to that, looking at Wayne Street and also North Saginaw as opportunities for other public infrastructure, but Wayne to Warren, that then connects into El Centro. El Centro will be parked behind here for not included in this plan, but for potential other development, assuming this is truly transformational. As we mentioned before, El Centro is a 55,000 square foot building, which will house sort of that not-for-profit community base within it. And you mentioned La Cultural, La Familia. That's broadly speaking the project. You can see the exchange flats with the outdoor amenity space here. It will also have indoor amenity space within the building itself. Next slide, please. If you just scooch down. All right. So we talked about tech and arts. El Centro we talked about as well. So, sorry, I said 59,000 square feet and 75,000 square feet. Existing conditions today, I'm sure you're well aware. You obviously live in this community, what the Oakland Press building is. I want to communicate that this will not be a true historic tax credit redevelopment, but will be adaptive reuse, preserving the exterior elements, but modifying the interior into a modern day office building. Next slide, please. When I mentioned, so really the feel, if you've not been on this street recently, is really the public improvements along here of creating sort of a very walkable kind of node within it. This is the garden space that I was, it's okay. Keep going. Keep going. There we go. So really creating through this space here and coming down is sort of this subterranean sort of at grade, below grade that will turn into maker space, which it once was, and bring it back and have it more of a real community-centric hub there, sort of an artist collaborative, if you will. You can see it here. This obviously, go to the next slide, please. This is 91 North Saginaw, obviously El Centro, where it would be parked. Next slide, please. Wow, that's weird. So this is we would change the facade of this building. We would open up these two ground floor levels right here, creating another node coming from Saginaw going south. And so we can look at a couple renderings of what that will look like once completed. Again, creating sort of a unique sort of European, restaurant feel within this building. Next slide, please. This is obviously where the exchange flats will be. So really at that hard corner, that gateway in with a 9-story building, 335,000 square feet. This is what it is today. Next slide, please. Again, just another slide of it. You can see here, go back, please, what the total investment of all of this will be. So I said 105, it's $105.9 million, so 106. El Centro is an investment of $9.2 million. Tech and Arts is $16 million, and the Exchange Flats is an $80 million project, all in. I want to make reference that this is total development cost, so that's the land basis, that's the hard cost, the soft cost, everything baked into the project to get to that $105 million. Next slide, please. Give you a flavor of what this will actually look like. You can see sort of this L-shaped building, balconies, different material composition throughout. So brick on this 2 level, which is sort of the amenity space, the outdoor amenity space, and then sort of a metal composite going up. You can kind of see how this fits in, broadly speaking, with creating the opportunity where these two are really synergistic. So you have the residents, the rooftops, the multifamily, and then you have this opportunity for this tech hub with this food hall. Again, really being family destination driven. The idea is that it really is a destination for people to come and enjoy, have stalls. We're anticipating probably 12 to 16 stalls there, give or take, and of really the opportunity to incubate new small businesses and new food and beverage into the community. And then in addition to that,
looking at sort of that not-for-profit community hub. So we've really got a varied uses, and they're all interplaying. So as the office tenants come, there's a place for folks to live, in addition to existing people in the city. And then we have the not-for-profit side of this that's feeding off of this side, that's sort of feeding off of each other with all of that public infrastructure and these varied uses to create a truly transformational development within this quadrant of downtown. Next slide, please. Just another image of it. You can kind of see how that food hall works, how Pine Street becomes a real focal point of this, and we're really creating something quite amazing with respect to the multifamily building. Next slide, please. Just another image of this. Again, oh, well, this is actually quite nice. I mean, what a new facade would look like bringing back the actual brick and instead of having that I don't know, maybe that more 90s, 80s facade treatment, seeing how we can open up this space here for a cafe, and then a restaurant on the other side. Next slide, please. An image of what this would look like at grade looking south. Again, really an inviting space. That's the intent of it, and to create an amazing opportunity for a local restaurateur and a local cafe owner. Next slide, please. And just an evening slide, not necessarily wet on having red there, but having a nice sort of the nice signage on the exterior of the building as well to really create that opportunity as you're going south from the north. That's broadly speaking the presentation as it relates to the overall project itself. Again, I'll communicate it's 287 units, $105 million development, and frankly, over 135,000 square feet of mixed-use office space. I will say, and I'll say this quite assertively, that without the transformational Brownfield plan, this project would not be financially viable. It is a definitive requirement to make this project a success, and I think the intent of the transformational Brownfield plan in the legislation and how it was approved was to really address what would otherwise be market dysfunctions and to create this program to allow for state capture of income taxes. So I want to make that really, really clear. It's incentive based. So every time that someone lives in a building or works in a building, that person, it's not coming from the city, it's coming from the state that's coming down to help finance the project. So we're taking the state income tax, the state withholding tax, the state sales tax, and use tax. So when someone's utilizing this building, it's coming back into the project to be able to finance the gap that we would have otherwise. That is not money that's necessarily coming, it's not necessarily, it is not coming from the city. That's state money that's been earmarked for these types of transformational projects that the state is in full support of supporting this development. And so with that is the project, and what we're seeking here is concurrence with the approval of the OCBRA as it relates to this plan, those projections, so on and so forth.
Thank you. And you can keep bouncing back and forth from the visual to the podium if there's more questions directly for you, but thank you for that thorough review and analysis. Councilwoman Jones with a question or with the floor?
Just out of curiosity, are there opportunities for expanding the parking structures? Because I saw one next to the L-shaped building. It didn't look like there were quite that many parking areas.
Yeah, so if you were to look at...
Oh, well, that looks... Okay, that's the picture I saw originally.
But there would be parking, so there would be parking in that podium. Can I go back? Yeah. Well, at least it gives humanity to the whole thing. So parking is situated also in here along with the amenity space, as you can see here. So that's an open air podium. And then there's parking to satisfy it around for surface parking.
So there is basically stacks of parking structure
within the building. I mean, this design is, yes, absolutely there is. So there will be, it's a podium style building, steel frame, and then we'll steel all the way up. But that's a podium right here to accommodate additional parking within the building.
And obviously site plans and parking sort of ratios will have to go through the planning process or various different ways. This step of the process is I got to remember. This is saying the Brownfield plan, where Oakland County and the city are in agreement. It can go up to the state for further consideration. We're sort of co-signing that, yes, we're viewing it as meeting the sort of essence of what a brownfield is, a former sort of dormant land or a building that's sort of no longer able to be utilized, and there's state law that specifies what that is, but we're saying that it is a brownfield plan that satisfies us at the city level, concurring with the county, and then it can move on for further consideration. And then the next vote is about specifically an affordable housing agreement between the City of Pontiac and Pontiac OZ1 LLC for the Exchange Flats project. And does Exchange Flats refer to the multiple buildings or just this residential? Got it. No, you're good. So to Councilwoman Jones's point, you have the floor. You had answered on parking. Was there other questions you had?
Just a confirmation question. We are considering the brownstone for everything to the right of the red line, so that parking structure to the left is completely irrelevant, correct?
Well, actually, that gray building that you see that's kind of boxed out there in that corner, that is an existing apartment building called the Hamilton. And that's, I don't know how many, 4 or 5 stories, but that's affordable housing that the WODA group
Out of Grand Rapids.
built maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago. But again, COVID blur, I can't tell you the exact timeline. So that building is not impacted, correct, by this vote. That building has already been constructed. The city, through various different entities, and I can't remember if it went to city council, but that was approved, and so that's done and in place. And Councilman Rutherford, how many units are in the Hamilton?
I believe it's
50.
50 or 60, if I'm not.
Okay, mid-50s, between 50 and 60. So this complements that. This is another sort of, this would be another development, but correct, it's bounded within the red line there. Would be the 5 parcels.
Okay, thank you, I'm done.
Other questions or discussion? Councilman Rutherford.
So you guys own the factory yard. You guys are going for a brownfield transformation in Grand Rapids, correct?
Dennis Griffin, who's the lead developer, yes, has been approved for a transformational brownfield plan in factory yards.
And then you're doing another brownfield transformation in the other part, the Cove Street Collective, correct?
That I do not believe is a transformational brownfield plan.
Okay, so I'm asking this because I'm not worried about whether the project will be successful. I'm worried about who's going to be able to live there. And that's my biggest concern, because I want this project. It's good for the city, but is it good 25 years from now? So I'm not voting just for Melanie now. I was told that by Ms. Norcross. I'm voting for the future of Pontiac. So I need to understand how all of these tax incentives and these tax breaks actually benefit the citizens of Pontiac. Because in 25 years, I'll be 70 years old. And so I'm just very concerned about this. I'll be 70. And that's what I just need somebody to make this make sense, because that part doesn't make sense to me, how it benefits the city. I get that it brings new development. I get that it brings new infrastructure, but how does all of these tax breaks benefit us? When we first got into council, there was a, what was the word they used? A moratorium on tax, on all these different tax incentives. And all of a sudden we're doing this brownfield, and it's creative and it's great. But what changed from 3 years ago? Now, I guess this question is for the administration to now, because all of a sudden we just gave Lauren Guzik Oprah. 28 North is about to come to us in January for Oprah. They need a brownfield, and they already got an Oprah. Like, where's the collection of the money to benefit the citizens? So I yield to the administration.
Well, in terms of the tax incentives, we've never put a pause on tax incentives in general. It's really just been the pilots, because they tend to continue in perpetuity. But we have, in fact, approved housing brownfield TIFAs. We've arranged for the NEZ zone. We've approved OPRAs for a number of projects. So in terms of tax incentives in general, we have approved a number of those for a range of developments, both market rate as well as affordable, in fact, mostly for affordable projects. But I want to give our Economic Development Manager, Deborah Younger, an opportunity to answer the underlying question about how does a project like this really benefit the residents of the city.
So the Oprah is a 12-year. Okay. The NEZ is a 15-year.
It's 27 years.
No,
15.
They run concurrently.
And then
Okay.
Brownfield is what?
Well, the Brownfield is, this Brownfield plan will run for a period of 25 years, okay? But it's not additive. It is in parallel, okay? The Brownfield plan does not come in place. It's an incentive-based structure, so if it's never built, there's never the benefit, okay? That's not the intention, though, but it's truly based on the developer's ability to get it done. I think broadly speaking, to answer your question as it relates to tax breaks, that when that benefit wears off in year 12, unlike a pilot, that stays generally in perpetuity for a minimum of 45 years, generally is the case, in a 9% YTech deal. You will never see the benefit of those taxes. You get the affordability. In this scenario, at the end of year 12, for these two office buildings, you're going to get the full benefit of those taxes after year 12.
Property taxes.
Property taxes. Okay, at the end of year 15. And during that period of year 12, I agree with you, Ms. Rutherford, sincerely, the taxes are being abated. But there's still taxes, to Mr. McGinnis's point, still being paid. Okay, without that abatement, though, frankly, a lender probably would not provide the loan to make this project, to make it viable. Okay, but after the abatement is off, in perpetuity, that project will generate substantial amount of real estate taxes. And what I can tell you in our underwriting, that the taxes just on the exchange alone, non-abatement, will exceed $650,000 annually. Okay, if you take those other two buildings, maybe we're in the realm of close to $1 million worth of taxes that will occur in this project once these abatements are fully burnt off. I would surmise that if you took that over time, and then what happens is one day it might sell, and then it uncaps again, and then there's a new reassessment on those taxes. The benefit of these taxes, and now the short term there's an abatement to help get the project off the ground, but in the long term there's a real economic push for additional tax base because of these projects in the long term.
And so my only follow-up would be to Ms. Younger. When we approved the NEZ, this is in the NEZ zone, correct? So they benefit from that as well?
Just on the residential piece, not on the office piece.
So my question to Ms. Younger.
Sorry, I apologize.
No.
I'm asking for a reason. What's the amount that
Okay,
they
the
would benefit?
Oprah goes to the commercial buildings. The NEZ would go for the exchange flats. So we use two different tools to get abatement for the different projects that are being developed.
Does the NEZ and the Oprah and the Brownfield all run at the same time?
Okay. NEZ from the date of application is 15 years. It begins to burn off in year 12.
Okay.
Oprah is 12 years.
Got that.
The Brownfield is 25 years, but it's not the abatement. It's the capture of taxes, primarily the income taxes, withholding taxes, and all that the state is giving up. So for the Brownfield.
But does the NEZ run concurrently? That's what my question is.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So what is the impact on city income taxes? Is the state legislation we understand it's a new venture that the state has created, and it's dealing with withholding and income taxes at the state level. Does it have any bearing or impact on the city's income tax, which has various rates for resident or non-resident?
No.
Okay, so this has been helpful. I'm glad you've asked these questions. I've learned a lot. So the benefit to Mr. and Mrs. Pontiac and our collective coffers is that after year 12, we begin to get closer to potentially $1 million annually on property taxes. And is that right? Right. And so then we also in Pontiac have an income tax. So everyone who lives in this building and or who works in this building or the other units, they're generating income taxes, which go into the coffers of Mr. and Mrs. Pontiac, our general fund. So there could be, depending on how many people live there and what their, jobs are and what the annual income, that I'm not going to throw a number out there, but it's property tax plus income tax. So that's the financial benefit to the citizens of Pontiac, that immediately there's the income tax infusion to the city coffers of city income tax, should there be additional residents, those that, either living there, don't move out of the city, or new to the city, and then property taxes after year 12 and then growing. So that's the financial benefit. The bigger benefit, of course, is that a catalyst, something transformational for downtown Pontiac. Pontiac in our downtown deserves a lot of love and deserves something that can take us to the next level. This could be quite the catalyst, comparable to Oakland County moving their 700 employees and returning to some of their county operations to downtown. It's in a different section of the downtown, but still a turbo boost for life, vitality. So that is something in terms of the impact to development more broadly in the community. But then when it comes to housing, we need more units, period. We need big houses, small houses, big apartments, small apartments, affordable, fancy. We need it all, and we need it 10 years ago, because we're going to find out more through the housing study. We're not in a position to make declarative statements, but it's a consensus that this council has identified we want more housing units. So in the next agenda item, we'll get into the nuts and bolts of affordability. But the question to us as a council is, do we view this as a transformational project? Does this have transformational benefit? My contention is that yes, and I feel even more strongly about that after tonight's presentation, because you've broken down the financing more than I understood before. And also, I heard about the stalls at the Grand Hall. So almost imagine like a farmer's market or sort of public sort of transition space that could be outdoor, indoor, really can be really dynamic for events. But this is the first I've either put it together or heard where Pine Street, which is a sort of a dormant street in our downtown, that would be transformed into a more of a public space. So that has a public benefit. And Central Multicultural La Familia, to have that kind of hub, that has a benefit to the community as well. So there's financial benefits, housing benefits, new construction in our downtown, and then activating and transforming a section of our downtown that doesn't get much attention, TLC, and development. Apart from, with the notable exception, the Hamilton, the new apartments, that was a big deal because it took a pretty dormant area, and now there's affordable housing, a few floors of it. Anyone else for the first time? Councilman Parker?
Thank you, Brother President. I was just looking at your page 38, and you say you're going to get, after you get done, 341 residents, employees? I think you said 341 employees over there?
Existing or new residents that would presumably live in that building.
Okay. With an average salary of about $85,000? Is that the beginning, or will that increase over the next 25?
People that are living and working in the entirety of the development.
Okay.
Any other questions, Councilman?
No, sir, I'm good for right now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilman Rutherford?
So I just want to say this. I just remember we had this project called The Strand. And it was supposed to be all these benefits that was supposed to be for the city. And it was supposed to be the city had a part into it, and we owned it, and we can use it. And I remember, because Kafani worked here during the time when this deal happened, so he can recall what I'm referring to. You know what I'm talking about, right, Kafani? Where I'm going with it? Okay. So it was CBGT2 funds, and it was supposed to benefit, and the Lafayette Loft was supposed to be affordable housing. And it's 2024, and I don't know most people who can afford to live in them housing, because what they said was going to happen didn't happen. I'm bringing this up to make a point. It is my hope that if we approve this tonight, that promises made will be promises kept. Because I've been here since I was born. And I've seen so many different people come in here and say, we're going to do all these things, we're going to make it affordable. And then the very same people who say that they're going to do these things, they end up sometimes selling the building like they did at 28 North Saginaw, who had an Oprah after everything else, nothing ever happened. And then there was another building downtown. And meanwhile, the people who have been sitting here waiting, because they just want to have the American dream too, want to be able to afford it, they got played. So if I vote for this, I'm hoping that you are a man of integrity and that y'all keep y'all word and do what y'all say y'all going to do. That's all I got.
Further discussion? Okay, so we have an Act 381 transformational brownfield plan. A lot of the contents have been reviewed broadly. Was there anything else in our rapid absorption of this content that also prompted questions? So each category, it breaks down the different buildings, new construction as well as adaptive reuse. So the vision is that the Oakland Press building and distribution center or printing center, that long part, that would be called the Tech and Arts Building. And the what had been Federal's department store, later the Waterman Building, Comcast was there, but 91 North Saginaw, that will be El Centro. The new construction apartments is the Exchange Flats.
Correct.
And is there a new construction addition to the back of the Oakland Press that becomes the Grand Hall, or is that an adaptive reuse?
It looks like that, but in this rendering, it does. The intent is that back of the building where the sort of the shipping area is, that it's integrated into a broader sort of porch, if you will. But that's in this rendering. But it would be maintained and sort of open to the street for sure.
Okay, Councilwoman Rutherford.
You guys currently own all these buildings?
Between Dennis and the current landowner, yes, they own every one of them.
And is there a guarantee with the current people that's in there renting that you guys are not going to raise the rent on them? What I'm referring to is currently Pioneer Housing Commission rents from there. I know El Centro, you brought them there. Is their rent going to go up when you guys do this redevelopment?
The intent is not to do that, no.
Is that in writing?
I mean, we have leases with them that are longer-term leases, but the intent is not to raise their rent. No, the intent is to utilize this as a community mission-driven redevelopment of this building, frankly. I mean, as you can see in the plan, I think that the hardest part with respect to smaller businesses and to not-for-profits is the occupancy cost. That's the upfront cost to actually fit out their space. And so I think that within the plan, what we're trying to do is to be extraordinarily flexible as to how we fit out the space, be flexible in how we arrange for that upfront tenant improvement. And also the rents that are currently pro forma in this deal are below market, frankly. And so there's nowhere that it's generally written, but we will sign long-term leases at likely below market rents, yes.
Further discussion? Okay. All right, hearing no further discussion, we are at the resolution concurring with the provisions of a brownfield plan adopted by the Oakland County Brownfield Redevelopment Authority for the Exchange project located at the northeast corner of West Huron Street and Woodward Avenue. All right, hearing no further discussion, roll call, Clerk Doyle on that brownfield plan concurrence.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Rutherford,
Yeah.
Goodman,
No.
James,
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
5 yeas, 1 nay.
That motion carries. The resolution is adopted. We are next at number 11. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
No.
Okay, so that's set on the table. We'll pull it back when the time is right. We're at number 9 under Economic Development. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution approving appointments to the Tax Increment Financing Authority, TIFA, Board of Directors?
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved by Councilwoman Jones, seconded by Councilman Goodman. We give the floor to the administration for information.
Thank you. So we have long had a TIFA board or authority in the city of Pontiac, but there hasn't really been anything for it to do for many, many years. And so there were appointments made to it long time ago, but those appointments have all expired. And we now have need for actual decision-making by the TIFA board because as we roll out various tax incentives, especially for housing, especially for affordable housing, we need a TIFA board that can actually make decisions. And so in your packet is a recommended list of 7 appointees. I want to make sure that I'm giving our Economic Development Manager, Deborah Younger, an opportunity to speak in greater detail about why there's the current need to appoint the TIFA board members.
Thank you. Good evening again, Council, Mayor, Deputy Mayor. As the Mayor indicated, we currently have 2 active TIFA districts. So when, in fact, projects come in those TIFA districts, it's required that a TIFA board approve them. Other projects that I brought before you were not in a TIFA district, so I didn't have a need for the TIFA board. But now, because we're doing deals that are in TIFA districts, the board needs to be in place to approve things that happen within that TIFA district. So for your edification, the TIFA board can be up to 13. I'm recommending 7 appointments for today as we look to build out several of our economic development boards and authorities in the future.
Specifically Exhibit A, I see 2 spelling errors for 2 of the 7 names for Kenneth R. Birch, so it's Kenneth, and then Joy Dockham, her last name is Dockham. Is there
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay, it's been moved by Councilman Rutherford, seconded by Councilman Goodman to correct the exhibit related to the resolution for this correct spelling of those individuals that have been named. And now I'll name them. It's these are the 7 appointments that have been made that are before us. Jose Ibarra III, Kenneth R. Birch Sr., Christine Myers, Joy Dockham, Dr. Anisha Hanna, John Bry, and Levante Travis. So what we're voting on right now is just correcting the spelling of those 2 identified, Kenneth Birch and Joy Dockham. Any clarification on that specific vote on correcting the spelling? Hearing none, roll call.
Mr. President, so what was the second? I see the Kenneth Birch. What was the second correction?
Kenneth Birch and then Joy Dockham. Her last name is spelled Dockham.
H-A-M. Okay. Dockham. Okay.
H-A-M. Yes. Roll call. Clerk Doyle on that amendment, correcting that.
James?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Parker?
Yes.
Rutherford? Goodman?
Yes.
6 yeas, no nays.
All right, that amendment passes. The correction's been made. So those are the names. That's the mayor and manager has spelled it out what they're proposing. Any further discussion? Councilman Rutherford.
Yeah, I have several questions. Number 1, how were these individuals chosen? 2, did you ask anybody from council what they thought? 3, 2 of these individuals are currently running for positions with the school district, and is there going to be any conflicts with them being on this board? And that was 2. And 3, why wasn't Council President or Pro Tem approached for this board? So I yield to the administration for an explanation.
Well, I'll allow the Economic Development Manager to express her thoughts as well, but we specifically didn't want any city elected officials on the board, including myself, so we wanted to make sure that it did not include any city elected officials who represent city government. Secondly, no, there's not a conflict of interest with school board members serving on it. And third, it was the individuals were identified through a collaborative process involving the Economic Development Manager and the Deputy Mayor and I.
I also did reach out to President McGinnis as well and discuss that. I think Joy Dockham was one of his recommendations, or he forwarded her name as a potential.
Okay, Mike, you did your job. We'll make sure they include you on stuff. All right, go ahead.
Any further discussion on approving these appointments? Again, more may come, but this allows the TIFA board to consider some of these housing items before some looming deadlines. Councilman Jones.
Quick question, and just out of curiosity, are any of the TIFA board appointees present today?
No, they are not.
Okay.
Wait a minute.
Any further discussion? Okay. All right, so this is the resolution to appoint Tax Increment Financing Authority Board of Trustees members. The mayor has made these appointments, and now it's up to us to confirm. The Economic Development, Housing, and Planning Subcommittee, including yesterday morning, heard from Manager Younger about the time sensitivity, that if this TIFA board is not in existence or reconstituted within a matter of days, then multiple large housing proposals, they will end, or at least their viability with the state of Michigan pursuing different incentives. Yes.
I was waiting on you to say that. So, you know what I'm about to ask, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So,
Come on.
hold on. I ain't come back. Which projects will this affect? Is it going to affect Lighthouse, Dennis
Lighthouse.
Griffith, 28 North Saginaw?
No,
all the-
Lighthouse and Dennis Griffin. And so corporate counsel for the county and the state just recently told us that we had to reappoint the TIFA board. So this isn't something I sat on as we moved this through the process. We got a ruling from corporate counsel at Oakland County as well as from the state saying that the TIFA board had to be reinstated. So I've only been aware of this about a week and a half.
And my only other question, don't we owe like $2 million, TIFA? Am I not correct?
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's to the administration, to Connie.
So the question that Councilman Rutherford's alluding to is, what are the current obligations that the taxpayers of Pontiac have from past TIF decisions?
Yes. So there is currently a deficit in the TIFA funds. Would you like me to explain the nature of the deficit, or do you want me to just stop there?
Oh, no, I just wanted you to clarify so that the people at home know we owe money. That's all.
Well, okay, so we don't owe money in the sense that there is some bank to which we are beholden. The way tax increment financing works is that the taxes on a property are what they are. And once you improve that property, there is a difference, right? So the taxes were $100, and now the taxes are $110. You can use that extra $10, the increment, to do projects. One of the things that you can do is pledge that extra $10 towards taking out a loan, which is in fact what the city of Pontiac did do. When was that? I mean, God, 20 plus years ago. Then what can happen, normally property values continue to go up and the amount of money in that increment continues to go up. Unfortunately, we had the Great Recession and property values went down. And so when property values go down, because of the way taxing for property works in Michigan, even after the market corrected itself, if those properties do not change hands because of Prop A, those property values can only increase by 5% or the rate of inflation, whichever number is lower. So we are at a point now where the city's general fund is paying for projects that normally the TIFA fund would have paid for. Right, so do we owe money? There is money that the general fund is covering because the TIFA fund is a wholly owned subsidiary of the city of Pontiac. So anything that the TIFA fund doesn't cover, the general fund must cover. It is the same thing that is true with any other fund that is not the general fund. If any other fund in the city runs short of money, the general fund has to cover that, and the general fund has been covering any of the lingering TIFA debt.
Further discussion? Councilman Rutherford.
Just because I'm a little confused, because I remember when we had a DDA, Do you recall? And I swear that was 2010, 2012. So that's where I'm getting my figure from, that there's a large amount of money that we owe. That's why we can't have a DDA. So that's what I'm asking. What's the actual amount we owe?
I don't, obviously, I don't have the city's budget in front of me right now, so I don't have that exact number. We do not have a DDA, not because we have some debt that ran up high. We do not have a DDA because of a decision that was made by the emergency financial manager. And the decision that he made was he did not want to continue using the tax increment finance process, because once all of the DDA's debts were settled, a certain amount of money would come back to the city's general fund, as opposed to being segregated to only be used in the downtown area. I will say that that was a relatively short-sighted decision that he made, because by making that decision, he also sent back a lot of money to Oakland County and to other taxing jurisdictions, because the tax increment finance does not only capture the tax increment of the city, it captures the tax increment of the county and of other jurisdictions. So when he made the decision to sunset it and no longer be able to capture those other funds, once, and I believe, Sekar, we have paid off all of the DDA bonds, correct? Yes. Yes. So all of the DDA bonds have actually been paid off. It is TIFA 2 and TIFA 3 bonds that we still have outstanding. But so it's not, we don't have a DDA not because there is some large debt that the DDA owns. We don't have a DDA because the emergency financial manager made the decision that once all of the DDA bonds have been paid, we would no longer enact that tax increment financing. So the general fund would get a small increase to their dollars, but those dollars would be able to be spread across the city instead of only being spent in the downtown tax area. But also, we were foregoing any money that we would have received from the other taxing jurisdictions.
Any further discussion on the appointments, the resolution approving the appointments to the TIFA Board of Directors? Speakers is exhausted. Roll call. Clerk Doyle on the resolution to appoint Tax Increment Financing Authority Board of Trustee members.
Goodman,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Rutherford.
Yes.
6 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. The resolution is adopted.